Have you ever felt like there are people in your life who always know exactly how to hurt you? They don't need to touch you, yell, or curse. With just a few words, a cold glance, or deliberate silence, they can throw your mind into chaos, break your heart, and make you question your own worth. They could be an ex-partner, a family member, a colleague, or even someone you thought was a close friend. The strange thing is, even though you know they're toxic, even though you've read dozens of self-help books and watched hundreds of motivational videos, one small action from them can pull you back into that familiar emotional swamp. Why does this happen? Because you've left the door to your pain wide open for them to walk through. Here's a harsh but necessary truth. No one can hurt you unless you give them the power to do so. The most painful part isn't what they do, it's that you allow it to happen again and again. Pain doesn't start from the outside, it begins within, from unhealed vulnerabilities, from wounds that haven't closed, from expectations you place on others in the hope they'll change. But here's the thing. There's one simple yet incredibly powerful interaction that can make you untouchable. If you truly understand and live by it, no one, I repeat, no one, can bring you down again. In this video, we'll dive deep into that action. It's a revolutionary yet practical approach, a tool that requires no words, no anger, no retaliation. It's right there in your mind. If you're ready for true freedom, freedom from manipulation, emotional dependency, and the cycle of being hurt over and over, this video is for you. Prepare to completely shift how you view the world, yourself, and especially how you respond to those who try to hurt you. And if you're serious about this journey, don't forget to like, share this video with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel now to stay updated with content that helps you grow stronger every day. Section 1. Recognize the pattern, not the person. What keeps hurting you repeatedly isn't that the person is particularly powerful or smarter than you. It's that you haven't realized the pain doesn't come from them, but from the pattern they trigger within you. Humans tend to personalize everything. When someone hurts us, we immediately tie the pain to their face, their name, or the specific relationship. But that's the trap that keeps you from breaking free. When you see the problem as a specific person, you get stuck in a cycle of fighting or defending, trapped in judgment, resentment, or worse, hoping they'll change. But if you dare to step back and look deeper, you'll start to see the repetition. The way they make you feel small, dismiss your emotions, or push you to prove your worth. It's not random. It's a pattern, a sequence of behaviors you've encountered before, maybe from childhood, a past relationship, or deep-seated beliefs you've carried your whole life. Recognizing the pattern is the act of someone who's awake. When you realize the pain doesn't come from the person, but from how they trigger unhealed wounds within you, you gain the power to choose. You no longer need to win a pointless argument or prove who's right or wrong. You simply observe, aha, this is that old feeling, the feeling of not being good enough, of being sidelined, of needing permission to exist. When you can name the pattern, you're no longer under its unconscious control. You become the one in charge, no longer a victim of old reflexes. For example, if you're constantly dismissed by others, instead of getting angry or trying to explain yourself to gain validation, ask, where have I felt this before? Who was the first person to make me feel my opinions didn't matter? The answer might take you back to childhood, to a parent who always shuts you down. When you realize this, you also see that the person in front of you isn't the root cause. They're just reopening an old wound. From there, you don't need to fight the person in the present. You just need to heal what's inside you. It's dangerous to equate pain with the person causing it without seeing the pattern behind it. If you don't, you'll keep meeting the same type of person with a different face in future relationships. That's why so many people fall into a cycle of toxic relationships. They think the problem lies with the individual, so they believe changing the person will free them. But soon enough, they find themselves facing the same old feelings, the same familiar pain. No one can save you from that pattern unless you wake up and face it head on. Once you recognize the pattern, you can pause before reacting. You can ask, is this feeling from the present or just a replay of the past? This stops you from falling into emotional reflexes or being swept into unconscious control. When you stop reacting, you stop giving away your power. Toxic people lose the only tool they have, triggering that pattern in you. From here, you enter a new state, a state of observation instead of reaction. When you see others as mere expressions of an old pattern, they're no longer enemies but signals to turn inward. Each trigger becomes an opportunity to heal, not a battle to win or lose. You'll also realize that some people in your life exist only to teach you this lesson, and then they disappear. They're not people you need to hold on to. They're the final test before you step through the door to true maturity. You'll be amazed at how your inner strength grows when you stop personalizing every hurt. You'll become calmer, clearer, and most importantly, no longer controlled by anyone. No one can hurt you simply by existing. You become the gatekeeper of your own peace. This is the first and most foundational step to becoming untouchable. If these insights resonate with your experiences, leave a comment below to discuss further. Don't forget to like if you found this section helpful, share the video to spread this awareness to those you care about, and subscribe to continue your journey of healing and empowerment. Remember, you can't control the world, but you can control the patterns within you, and that changes everything. Section 2, emotionally immunize yourself. One reason you keep getting hurt by others isn't that they're too strong, it's that you haven't built a robust emotional immune system. You might take care of your body, exercise to boost physical immunity, but let your emotions drift with others' words or attitudes. This is the biggest gap toxic people exploit. They don't need to hit you with fists. A single comment, a glance, or pointed silence is enough to throw you into inner turmoil. This isn't because they're master manipulators. It's because you haven't built an inner shield. And that shield isn't cold indifference, but a state of heightened awareness where you don't let others' emotions define yours. Emotional immunity starts with self-awareness. You need to know exactly what's affecting you. Not everything that upsets you is real. Sometimes you're not reacting to the situation, but to an old wound being triggered. Emotional immunity is the ability to recognize, oh, this is the fear of rejection, the fear of not being good enough, the pain of abandonment. Once you name the emotion, you start to control it. Those who can't name their emotions are always controlled by them, and worse, easily manipulated by others through those emotions. Remember, toxic people rarely target your logic. They don't try to convince you with reason. Instead, they go straight for your emotions. They make you feel guilty, inadequate, or desperate for approval, forgiveness, or validation. When you fall into that emotional state, you hand them full control. So emotional immunity isn't about freezing your emotions, but observing them without being consumed. You can feel anger, offense, or hurt, but you don't let those emotions drive your actions. You're the gatekeeper. You see everything but choose to respond consciously. One effective way to build emotional immunity is to practice detaching from the trigger. When someone says something that angers or hurts you, instead of reacting instantly, pause and say to yourself, "This is an emotion, not the truth." This simple phrase creates distance between you and your emotional reflex, giving you the power to respond intelligently instead of habitually. Another strategy is training inner calm. Calmness isn't denying emotions, but standing firm in the storm. Like an athlete training for harsh conditions, you need to train yourself to maintain emotional stability even when provoked, belittled, or verbally attacked. You can do this by intentionally exposing yourself to uncomfortable situations in a controlled way. For example, practice enduring awkward silence without rushing to fill it. Learn to let others misunderstand you without needing to correct them immediately. Accept the feeling of rejection without begging for validation. Each small experience builds emotional resilience, an inner strength no one can touch. Also, remember that emotional immunity can't grow if you constantly place yourself in toxic environments. Just as your body can't thrive if you feed it junk every day, your mind can't either. If you spend most of your time with people who criticize, mock, doubt, or make you feel small, even the best training will struggle to bring peace. Emotional immunity isn't just an internal skill. It's also about curating your external environment. Clear your energy space of people who consistently bring negativity. This doesn't mean hating them. It means loving yourself enough to stop allowing the same type of person to hurt you. Finally, emotional immunity is a journey, not a destination. Some days, you'll be as calm as a monk. Others, you'll break down in pain. That's part of the process. What matters is that you grow more aware, proactive, and at peace within yourself. Once you achieve this, you'll realize a powerful truth. Others can no longer control you through your emotions. You become untouchable, not because you lack emotions, but because you navigate them with awareness. If these insights helped you see something within yourself, leave a comment below the video. I want to hear your experiences in building inner strength. Don't forget to like to support the channel, share the video with those who need a strong emotional immune system, and subscribe for more. The journey to emotional mastery is the journey of owning your life, and you deserve it. Number 3, anticipate, don't absorb. In life, you can't avoid negative people, stressful situations, or unfair criticism. But what separates those who are constantly hurt from those who remain emotionally steady isn't the environment, it's how they respond. One of the most powerful strategies to protect yourself from emotional manipulation is learning to anticipate instead of absorb. Imagine walking into a room knowing someone will try to provoke you. Without prior preparation, you'll get swept up in their negative energy and absorb it like a sponge. But if you're mentally prepared, if you've decided, I know they'll try to unsettle me, and I'm ready not to react the way they want, you've already stripped them of much of their power. Anticipation is a psychological skill that requires stepping back to see the bigger picture. It gives you time to set an intention before entering a situation. For example, if you know you're meeting someone who often plays the blame game, remind yourself, they'll blame me, but I don't need to justify myself. I'll stay calm and say only what's necessary. This anticipation doesn't make you robotic. It makes you more deliberate in your actions. You stop acting on reflex and start acting by choice. That conscious choice is what makes you untouchable. A common mistake is entering emotionally charged situations without protecting your energy. It's like going into battle without armor. When attacked unexpectedly, you react emotionally, anger, sadness, offense, or even panic. Once you've absorbed all that negative energy, you lose the ability to discern what you truly think versus what they're pushing you to believe. They don't need to be right, they just need you to react, and they've won. That's why anticipation is the first step to reclaiming control. For instance, when working or living near people who criticize or belittle others, without anticipation, their sarcastic remarks pierce your heart like arrows. But if you've prepared yourself with the mindset, this is just how they are. Their words don't define my worth but reflect their skewed values. You've built a protective shield. You hear without being swayed, see without being tainted, witness without being swept away. That's the mark of someone who masters themselves. The essence of don't absorb isn't avoiding emotions, but having a filtering mechanism. You have the right to feel, but you're not obligated to hold on to everything. If someone hurls an insult at you, you can choose to see it like a gust of wind. It may pass through, but you don't need to keep it inside. This isn't indifference, but conscious selection. What belongs to me, I keep. What's someone else's emotional garbage, I leave with them. The more you practice anticipation, the easier it becomes to distinguish the two. To build this skill, practice a form of mindfulness meditation, specifically reflex meditation. Before entering important conversations or potentially triggering situations, take a few minutes to breathe deeply and ask, what do I expect? Who might unsettle me? How will I respond if that happens? This creates an internal map before facing reality. When the situation unfolds as predicted, you won't be surprised or rattled. You won't absorb their emotions like a helpless victim. You'll stand calm because you were prepared. In that preparation, you become unharmable. Interestingly, the less you absorb, the more powerless negative people become. They thrive on the energy you give them. If you react, you fuel them. If you get angry, you validate their power. But when you only observe and withhold your emotions, they lose their grip. You force them to face themselves. No distractions, no target to vent on. They're left to confront their own reflection. In that moment, you've won, not with words or arguments, but with unshakable presence. If this section gave you a concrete strategy for handling negative people, leave a comment below to share your experience. If you want to spread this mindful energy to others, don't hesitate to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Every small action you take is a big step in building a stronger community, where we're no longer hurt by those who don't deserve our pain. Number 4, don't take it personally. One of the biggest mistakes that makes us vulnerable is personalizing everything. When someone criticizes you, says harsh words, or acts unfairly, the natural instinct is to assume they're attacking you specifically and intentionally. But the truth is, most people's actions reflect their own inner world more than your reality. Bitter, critical people are often wrestling with their own dissatisfaction, pain, or insecurity. When you understand this, you stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "What does this say about who they are?" This shift in perspective is a game changer. It frees you from the spiral of self-doubt. You need to remember that not every piece of feedback deserves to be absorbed, and not everyone is an accurate mirror of who you are. For example, if an angry person calls you worthless, that doesn't make you worthless. It only reveals their emotional state at that moment. When you stop personalizing, you create a healthy distance between others' words and your intrinsic worth. You retain the power to decide which words are worth considering and which are just emotional trash to let go. A key thing to keep in mind is that most of others' anger doesn't stem from you, but from themselves. They might be exhausted, stressed, or hating their own life, and you're just the easiest target to vent on. If you stand there and absorb it all without discernment, you not only take on their pain, but also signal that you're easily controlled. But when you don't react, when indelicate, you don't see their insults as a reflection of your value, you hold on to your power and send a subtle but clear message. I'm not under your control. The saying, "Don't let others live rent-free in your head," isn't a joke. Every time you personalize negative words, you let them define you in your own mind. Worse, you start changing your behavior, emotions, or even identity just to respond to a comment that wasn't worth it. That's how you lose yourself without realizing it. But you can stop. You can ask yourself, do I really believe what they said? Am I reacting out of fear or guilt? Or am I just a victim of emotional manipulation? These questions help you sever unnecessary emotional ties. Not personalizing doesn't mean being numb. It means placing emotions where they belong. You can feel sad, disappointed, or hurt. That's normal. But the difference is not letting those emotions shape your beliefs about yourself. You can say, "I'm sad about how they treated me," but that doesn't define who I am. This is the power of inner discernment. When you master it, you not only heal yourself, but become someone who's hard to manipulate. Practicing not personalizing also makes you more compassionate without losing your boundaries. When you realize others' negative behavior stems from their own pain, not you, you can maintain empathy without explaining or yielding. You can set firm boundaries with kindness. This energy makes you untouchable, steadfastness paired with compassion. You don't need to prove anything. You just stand firm in your truth. To master this skill, when faced with verbal attacks or toxic behavior, step back mentally and imagine you're an observer. See the situation as a movie where you're the audience, not a character controlled by the script. Ask, if I were an outsider, what would I think of their reaction? Am I truly the reason they're acting this way? Most of the time, you'll see they're just reacting from their emotional habits, and you're merely the trigger. If today's lesson awakens something in you, leave a comment sharing your experience of being hurt by personalizing others' words. If you think this video could help someone struggling with pain from being misunderstood or attacked, don't hesitate to share it. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss strategies to grow more resilient each day. Let each video be a step forward in mastering your mind and protecting your heart from what doesn't deserve it. Number 5, withdraw without guilt. One of the quietest yet most powerful strengths you can possess is the ability to withdraw without guilt. In a world that glorifies explanation, transparency, and constant connection, choosing silence, stepping back, or leaving a toxic relationship is often seen as weak or selfish. But in reality, it's a sign of profound inner maturity. Withdrawing isn't failure. It's a declaration from someone who knows their limits, when to invest, and when to let go to preserve inner peace. You don't owe anyone your constant presence in their life, especially those who make you feel small, drained, or controlled. Just because you were once close to someone doesn't mean you must stay forever, and leaving doesn't make you a bad person. It's simply self-protection. Some relationships, if continued, are just repeated pain. Some spaces only let you breathe once you step away. What stops many from withdrawing is guilt. They fear hurting others, being judged as cold, or that the other person won't understand. But ask yourself, are you willing to trade your mental health, freedom, and self-respect just to maintain a pleasant image in someone else's eyes? If the answer is no, it's time to learn to leave without permission or self-blame. Withdrawing doesn't need to be loud. You don't need to make it clear, write a heartfelt letter, or convince anyone to understand you. Sometimes it's just stopping replies to messages, disengaging from controlling conversations, or ceasing to fix broken pieces when you're the only one trying. It's silence born from the realization that you deserve more. And here's what you must remember. Guilt is a common control mechanism used by toxic people. They'll use disappointed looks, blaming words, or past favors to make you feel wrong for letting go. But the truth is, if someone truly cares about you, they won't burden you with emotional weight every time you need a break. If staying costs your peace, the price is too high. You weren't born to be someone else's lifeboat while you're sinking. Look back at all the times you stayed just because you feared hurting someone else. How much did it hurt you? How tired were you? And did they change? The truth is often clear. If someone doesn't respect your boundaries, they don't deserve your patience. Withdrawing isn't a lack of love. It's loving enough to know real love shouldn't feel controlling or draining. Something worth reflecting on. You can withdraw while still being kind. Withdrawing doesn't mean resentment. You don't need to wish them ill or seek revenge. Just choose to return to yourself. True forgiveness isn't hugging the person who hurt you and hoping they'll change. It's releasing them from your nervous system, breathing without saying their name, no longer trembling from old memories. Sometimes withdrawing is the deepest forgiveness you can give yourself. If you've ever felt you had to stay because you worried about what others would think or blamed yourself for leaving, you're not alone. Millions struggle with this daily, but today you can choose differently. You can prioritize yourself, because ultimately, no one can care for your mind and heart better than you. You can withdraw quietly, gently, but decisively, like someone who knows the value of peace. If this section touched something in you, leave a comment sharing your experience. Your story might help someone in a similar situation feel understood. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share the video as a gift of awakening. As always, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more in this journey of healing and mastering your life. You deserve peace, and sometimes that starts with a quiet step away. Number 6, become the observer. One of the most powerful steps in overcoming pain is learning to observe instead of react. When you become the observer, you're no longer a prisoner of your emotions or a victim of circumstances. You step back, not to escape, but to see clearly. You no longer dissolve into the chaos others bring. You stand apart as a silent witness, understanding but not swept away. Your silence as an observer isn't helplessness. It's the clearest expression of inner power. You don't need to shout to be heard or counter every falsehood to maintain your image, because you know true strength never needs to argue. Becoming an observer is a mental skill that requires practice. It's not natural in a world where reacting is instinct. When someone insults or judges you, or when you face injustice or criticism, your mind's first impulse is to defend, prove, or fight back. But the observer doesn't do that. They don't let their mind drag them into a pointless battle. Instead, they look, they listen, they analyze, and then they choose to respond, or not, from a place of clarity, not emotional chaos. Imagine standing in a noisy room where everyone's shouting, arguing, vying for attention. The reactor yells to drown others out. The observer steps back, finds a quiet corner, and sees what's really happening. In that moment, the observer notices what others miss. Who's pretending? Who's angry out of fear? Who's seeking attention to mask their pain? When you observe, you see the full picture, not just fragments of emotion. Toxic people don't know how to handle an observer. They thrive on a script. They need you to react, get angry, or play the role they've written for you. When you don't, they lose control. They become flustered, sometimes enraged, because they can't predict your next move. Your observant silence is a refusal to play their game. That's how you reclaim mastery over yourself without fighting. As an observer, you also realize that most of what people say or do reflects them, not you. An insult often reveals the speaker's insecurities more than your flaws. A lie exposes the liar's fear of being found out. When you observe others, you stop taking their negative behavior personally. You stop personalizing everything, and in doing so, you become free. You'll also start noticing repeating patterns. You'll see when someone acts kind to gain something, uses silence to punish, or plays weak to manipulate emotions. Observation connects the dots you previously missed. You're no longer surprised by unexpected behaviors because you've seen them coming. You just weren't awake enough to notice before. Now, as an observer, you can anticipate and act proactively, not react unconsciously. However, being an observer doesn't mean being indifferent or numb. It means being wise enough not to act impulsively. It's like a skilled chess player who doesn't rush to move but studies the board, analyzing their opponent's intentions. When they act, it's deliberate, not a knee-jerk reaction. You can still feel sad, hurt, or angry, but you don't let those emotions lead. You step back, observe, and process them intentionally. That's how you master yourself. One way to practice becoming an observer is to ask questions instead of judging. Instead of, "Why did they say that to me?" Try, "What are they trying to achieve through this?" Instead of, "I'm awful for being treated like this." Ask, "What does this reveal about them?" Observational questions keep you neutral, maintaining awareness without being pulled by emotions. If this section stirred something in you, leave a comment sharing the last time you realized you reacted instead of observed. If you're practicing this skill, share how you've managed your emotional reflexes. Don't forget to like if you found value, and subscribe for more in this journey to build an unshakable mind. You're growing, you're maturing, and your quiet observation is the ultimate symbol of awakening. Number 7, use every trigger as a test. Every time someone provokes, hurts, or makes you react uncontrollably, it's not the end. It's an opportunity, a chance to test how far you've grown emotionally, mentally, and in personal strength. Triggers, those things that shake you, aren't enemies. They're the toughest but most effective teachers you'll ever have. If you use them right, you won't just defend better against pain. You'll use those attacks to forge inner strength and mental discipline. This is the art of turning triggers into tests, and you're the judge of your own progress. Think about the last time someone said something that made your blood boil. Maybe they insulted you subtly. Maybe they brought up something you tried to forget. Maybe they were just thoughtless and you felt abandoned. Whatever the form, a trigger always makes you want to react instantly, to snap back, to prove yourself, to teach them a lesson. But pause, take a breath, and ask, what is this? An attack or a test for my mind? If you choose to see it as a test, you've just reclaimed full control. You've grabbed the steering wheel of your emotions instead of letting someone else drive. Strong people aren't trigger-free. They're the ones who spot triggers as they arise, observe them, and use them as a gym. They don't say, "Why is this happening to me?" but "How will I use this to grow?" For example, if someone makes you feel inadequate, see it as a challenge to strengthen your inner confidence. If someone ignores you, use it as a chance to learn to value yourself without needing external validation. If you're unfairly criticized, practice staying calm instead of getting angry. Every old reaction is an opportunity to forge a new one, an upgrade to your emotional operating system. The key is honesty with yourself. You won't pass the test if you deny the trigger's existence. "I don't care" is the most common lie. If you truly didn't care, you wouldn't need to say it. So when you feel triggered, embrace it. Observe it like a scientist studying your own brain. What are you feeling? Why? What reaction is forming automatically? If you can pause, count to 5, and choose a different response, you've passed the test. No one needs to know. No one needs to validate you. You know, and that's enough. True growth doesn't happen in the spotlight, but in private moments when you choose discipline over indulgence, calm over resistance. A mature person sees value in the worst situations. They don't let discomfort derail them. Instead, they use it to hone emotional intelligence. This isn't passivity or surrender. It's a high-level strategy. You take what others throw at you and turn it into material to build your own fortress. When you see every trigger as a test, you stop judging yourself for feeling weak. A failure to stay calm isn't a disaster. It's data. It shows you where to focus your training. Like an athlete who sees muscle pain as progress, not a problem. If criticism hurts, it's not proof you're worthless. It's a reminder to strengthen your inner stability in that area. Triggers stop scaring you. They excite you, because the more tests you face, the more chances you have to grow. And here's the interesting part. As you keep passing these tests, others will notice. They'll stop seeing someone easily provoked or manipulated. They'll see calm, steadiness, unshaken by attacks. Toxic people will retreat because you're no longer an easy target. And quality people will be drawn to you because you radiate the energy of someone who doesn't need to win others. They've already won themselves. If you're practicing turning triggers into tests, share a real example in the comments below. What used to make you angry but you've now learned to observe and overcome? What changes have you felt in your mind after choosing a new response? Your story could light the way for someone struggling in the dark. If this content resonates with your growth journey, like it to let me know you're following. Don't forget to subscribe for more in this series, where we'll keep exploring how to build unshakable resilience. Number 8, give no reaction, get all power. Silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's the expression of immense inner strength. In a world programmed to react instantly to harsh words, insults, or dismissal, the person who doesn't react holds all the power in that moment. When you refuse to react, you refuse to hand over control of your emotions to someone else. That's the moment you rise above the emotional swamp others try to drag you into and step into the position of mastery. Toxic people don't care about reason. They don't seek truth. They don't need your explanations. What they need is your reaction. Reactions feed them. They throw out a provocation just to see how you'll waver. They plant doubt to see how long you'll lose control. But when you don't react, you dismantle their entire system. It's a victory without confrontation, because you've refused to play the game they set up. When you stay calm, you send a powerful message. I'm not on your energy level. You don't say it with words. You don't need to shout or justify. Your steady expression, gaze, silence, and posture tell them you're not easily controlled, and that scares them. For toxic people, nothing is more unsettling than failing to manipulate your emotions. You become a mirror that forces them to see their own powerlessness. But this isn't easy. Your instinct wants to fight back. You want to correct them. You want to prove you're right. You want that final word to take them down. But ask yourself, are you reacting because you're in control or because you're being controlled? A truly in-control person doesn't need to speak in every situation. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. And with toxic people, silence is often the perfect response. Not reacting doesn't mean you're indifferent. It means you're too mature to be dragged down to their level. You understand every reaction is an energy drain, and a wise person only invests energy where it's worth it. Reacting to someone who doesn't understand, care, or intend to change is a waste. Instead, save that energy for your work, your loved ones, yourself, for what truly matters. Imagine a mirror. Others can rage, shout, or insult, but a mirror only reflects. It doesn't react. It doesn't get hurt. It doesn't ask, "Am I right?" It doesn't need to fix its reflection. It just stands, whole. You can learn that. When facing a situation that makes you want to react instantly, pause and picture yourself as a mirror, a calm surface, untouched by the chaos in front of you. And then something interesting happens. Toxic people start to panic. They don't know what you're thinking. They can't predict your next move. That strips their power. They might rage, set up more drama to provoke you. But if you stay calm, they realize, I no longer affect this person. That's the ultimate victory. You don't need to win with arguments. You win by staying whole. This takes practice, though. It requires emotional discipline. You must learn to observe emotions instead of being their slave. Every time you succeed in not reacting, you're not just proving your inner strength. You're retraining your nervous system to stop being swayed by external triggers. You become harder to hurt, harder to manipulate. You're forging an invisible armor that shields you from the world's toxicity. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, set an emotional trap, or insult you, remember this. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to say anything. Your silence can be the loudest response. And when you give no reaction, you take back all the power. If you felt the strength of refusing to react to someone who once manipulated you, share that moment in the comments below. What made you choose silence? How did it feel afterward? Don't forget to like if this section empowered you, and subscribe to keep joining this journey to build unshakable strength. Number 9, freedom is the ability to not be disturbed. There's a kind of freedom no one can give you and no one can take away, the freedom from being disturbed by the outside world. True freedom isn't doing what you want, saying what you like, or living without obstacles. It's the ability to stand in chaos without your mind being swept away. It's the art of remaining undisturbed, whether someone yells, criticizes, humiliates, or provokes. It's sitting still in the storm with an inner calm like an autumn lake. When you reach that level, no one can harm you anymore. Why? Because others can say cruel things, but they can't force you to take it in. They can set up a drama, but they can't make you play along. They can dump negative energy on you, but you have the power to keep it from sinking in. Every disturbance requires one thing, your inner consent. If you don't allow it, it doesn't happen. Freedom from disturbance starts with a critical realization. Your emotions are your responsibility. No one makes you angry, hurt, or heartbroken. You allow those emotions to arise. This doesn't mean being numb or living like a cold machine. It means you can observe, acknowledge, and choose how to respond deliberately, not be dragged by reflexes. When someone insults you, you can choose not to be insulted. When someone provokes you, you can choose not to get angry. When someone ignores you, you can choose not to feel rejected. This ability to choose is true freedom. Emotionally free people don't need to say much. They don't shout, "I don't care," to prove it. They show it through actions, through silence, through not reacting and living their lives without letting anyone steer their inner world. They walk through chaos without being bent by anyone. That makes them dangerous to manipulators. Because you can't control someone, you can't rattle or provoke. To reach this freedom, train yourself to spot disturbance signals early. When someone's words or actions make you uneasy, step back mentally and ask, why am I bothered? Is it because they're right? Did they touch an old wound? Or is it just my ego being challenged? Only by seeing the root of your emotion can you control it. And when you control it, you're no longer pulled along. A simple exercise is to notice each time you're stirred by someone's words, message, or attitude. Don't react immediately. Sit still, breathe deeply, and just observe the emotion rising. Don't judge it, don't push it away, just notice. Then ask, can I choose not to be affected by this? At first, the answer might be no, but with practice, you'll reach a point where you can smile and move on without a scratch on your soul. Freedom from disturbance also requires refusing to take on others' emotional baggage. Sometimes the closest people, friends, family, partners, are the biggest sources of disruption. They love you, but they also expect, judge, or make you feel you must become someone to be loved. When you set boundaries and keep those expectations from seeping in, you're guarding your peace. That's self-love at its highest level. If someone can't reach you with their old tricks, they might call you cold, distant, or heartless. Don't let those words sway you. If you must sacrifice your inner peace to be seen as kind, that's not kindness, it's surrender. Remember, not everyone deserves your emotional energy. Your inner peace is worth more than any conversation, and a mature person chooses peace over being understood or loved. Freedom from disturbance doesn't make you rigid or distant. It makes you reliable, steady, and safe for yourself and others. Because when you're not disturbed, you don't react from pain. You respond from understanding, from clarity. You don't need to win anyone. You just need to keep yourself. If you're on the journey to reclaim inner peace and have had an awakening moment when you realize you didn't need to get caught in someone's emotional game, share that story in the comments below. What sparked your realization? How did you hold on to that peace? If this content touched you, like it to let me know you're with me. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos to build stronger emotional freedom in your life. You've walked through a challenging journey, learning to protect your mind, calm your emotions, and reclaim your inner power. If there's one truth to take away from this video, it's this. You can't control what others do, but you can control what you give power to. Sometimes simply not reacting is your victory. You don't need to teach someone a lesson to regain balance. By not letting them enter and manipulate your inner world, they lose all control. The world will always have people who disappoint, hurt, or provoke you, but you don't need to live in constant defense. You can learn to stand still in the storm, not because you're weak, but because you've mastered the art of self-control, an art most people were never taught. When you grasp this, no one can harm you anymore, because what hurts you isn't others. It's the reactions you allow. Share this video with someone exhausted from being hurt by others' actions or words. You might be the reason they change their life and find peace again. Comment below which section resonated with you most deeply. I read every comment and will respond if you share sincerely. Like if you found this valuable, and subscribe to get more videos to build inner strength and emotional mastery every day. Finally, remember, real power isn't making others change. It's not needing them to change for you to live in peace. Guard that peace like a treasure, because it's the one thing no one can take from you unless you give it away. Never lose it again. You deserve a life free from being disturbed by others' pettiness, and now you know how to hold on to it.